Hello and welcome to the Valley. Today I am your host, Janet Michael. It is American Red Cross Day. You may remember last month we kicked off a new series where every month we are going to talk to Deb Fleming. She is the executive director of the Greater Shenandoah Valley chapter of the American Red Cross. Deb, I don't think either one of us were expecting to have a winter disaster upon us between our last conversation and this conversation. But I got to say, it did put my preparedness tools to use, or maybe not. Now I know how badly I am prepared for things, and that's good information to have too.
It really is. Who would have thought we had such cold temperatures for such a long period of time over so much of the United States? It's incredible. I haven't ever seen this happen before.
And in places that don't typically get any of it. I remember seeing on the news that there were potentially going to be flurries in Tampa, Florida. North Carolina got inches of snow. This is not a typical winter for a lot of people across the country.
That's right. Having winter temperatures this cold, especially in places that don't normally have it, they don't have the plow systems. The power lines are not used to something like this. They're not prepared. It's something to put on our watch list from now on, is to make sure that we are prepared for a storm of this magnitude.
And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about what some of those things are. But before we jump into that, one of the things that come out of having something come upon us like this with this much snow and then the ice on top is people can't get out of their houses. So while they may have been prepared and safe in their own homes, they're not getting out to donate blood, to volunteer, to do these other things. And then that ends up being a problem for you at Red Cross because blood donations are down.
I don't think a lot of people think blood and weather go together, right? That's not something I normally would have thought of. But if people can't get out of their homes, if it's too cold, if schools are closed because of the weather, where we have a lot of our blood drives, that affects how much blood we can collect. And before this storm started, we had a severe blood shortage because in December, we had 3 times the cancellations that we had the year before because of the winter weather. And then Winter Storm Fern came, and we are down an additional 20,000 collections across the US in the Red Cross. So these storms have impacted us, and we are already in a severe blood shortage, and now that has even made it worse. So this is one of those things that we need to keep our blood banks filled so that we do not have to make the decision. The doctors don't have to make the decision who they're going to help when it comes time. The interesting part about this is that in the winter, donations normally go down because you got people with the flu season. They're traveling, being with family, and they're getting sick oftentimes when they're traveling, being with family. And then you have the winter weather. And that's normal, unfortunately, for donations to drop in the winter. But this winter is particularly difficult because not only do we have all of those factors, but we have one of the worst flu seasons in our 20-year history. So we've got bad flu season. We have the roads, people can't get out. You can still see cars that are just piled up that they haven't even moved since the snow dropped. And this cold is going to continue, unfortunately. And you're from Pennsylvania like I am. Phil decided that we're going through 6 more weeks of this. So we're not getting out of it anytime soon.
I am not a fan of that groundhog.
Hopefully he's wrong again this year. But we don't want that to happen too fast because when you get this ice that is formed on the rivers and they start to melt, then you get the ice blocks that cause flooding in the rivers. And we had horrible flooding last year in West Virginia and Kentucky. And unfortunately, if history repeats itself, which we do expect, if this warming happens quickly and rains come, there's a high level of expectations that there's going to be spring flooding this year. So again, this winter weather, it affects a lot of us in multiple ways, and we just really need to be aware of that.
We're going to talk a little bit more about being prepared for those scenarios and the education that this winter storm probably gave us from that perspective. But before we do that, for someone who's listening and they did not realize how vital it was that your blood supplies get back to a normal level, you're still doing blood drives. They can go online and find a drive that's close to them. You even do things at the Winchester location on a regular basis. So if they can't find a blood drive that's near them and fits their schedule, they can just come into the office on certain days, right?
We prefer that they make appointments because they don't have to wait in line. So we do encourage an appointment, even in our blood drive in Winchester. We just had recently a blood drive that you all supported, and people hadn't signed up. And before we knew it, it was filled. So if you are in the area and you're like, you know what, I wasn't able to find a blood drive, or you know what, I'll just stop in and see, do they have space for me? We're hoping those blood drives get filled before the blood drive happens, but we want people to give. We need people to give blood right now. It is a severe blood shortage. We don't want those doctors to have to make those hard decisions.
There was an email exchange between Scott, the news director at the station, and Andrew, the station owner, that appointments hadn't been filled. And then we were doing that live broadcast talking about this is where we are and this is why it's so important. And then all these people started showing up
Yeah.
and came in. You would really rather for them to have made the appointment and you could have been prepared for X number of people. But any port in a storm, if people just want to show up because they're hearing it on the radio on their lunch hour, that's okay too in this particular situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need you. We need donors. Patients need this blood, whether it's for burn victims, cancer patients, mothers who are hemorrhaging, elective surgeries that would have to be put off, car accident victims. There are all types of needs out there that require blood. And if you can give, yes, stop in if you weren't able to make an appointment ahead of time. Let's see if there is an extra appointment available. We can't always guarantee that we can get you in, but that day that you all were there, you helped out so much with that just by being on the radio and allowing us to be with you. Your listeners really did support that blood drive, so we want to thank them for that.
How hard is it to organize a blood drive? If someone's listening today and they want to get their church together, or a PTO organization wants to get together and create a blood drive, is that needed as well?
It is. And they can go onto our website at redcross.org blood. You can see how you can host a blood drive or you can sponsor a blood drive. Hosting a blood drive are the churches that set up and organize and help us get volunteers to come to the blood drive, right? Any organization, a business or nonprofit organization who helps do that. Then our sponsors are the ones that help pay for those blood drives. And so you can be a host and a sponsor, or a host or a sponsor. We need both. Right now, with as many blood drives as have canceled, we need support in getting those either rescheduled or additional ones so that we can fulfill the needs of the community.
And then if we know of a blood drive that's going on and we put it on our social media, a lot of people out there can use social media kind of like we use the radio, and let people know, hey, this is happening, in case you know somebody who knows somebody that is in the area at that time and can make one of those appointments.
That's right. Social media is a wonderful tool to use to spread information to your friends, and you could show them what food you ate for the day, or you can show them how you were even able to support a blood drive and save a life. It's a wonderful thing. Think about if everybody got their friends and said, we're going to have a blood drive, and each of us on this day, we're going to try to give blood. And people did that all around the country. How impactful is that? Getting with your friends, your family, your associates on socials, and helping us get this blood to the hospital so that we can save lives.
I will give a quick shout out to my cohort, Justin Kearns. He does Tourism Tuesday with me every month. And we did our show last week about the Pickleplex, a pickleball court, indoor pickleball courts that Winchester has now. I saw on social for the first time he actually gave blood. I saw his picture. He showed where he was getting the blood donation was being drawn. I was very proud of him. So even first timers, you can do this for the very first time. It's okay.
There's a number out there that I had no idea about until recently. And I think it's a really important thing is that a third of people in the United States don't realize if people don't donate this blood, there may not be blood in the hospitals if they need it. We are so used to things functioning properly that we expect that if we go to the hospital and need blood, it's going to be there. But it may not if people aren't giving. And having those first time donors, it's awesome. You can see them a little timid whenever they walk in. They're not sure what to expect. They're a little nervous. You can usually tell a first time donor, and then they get out and they're like elated. Oh, that was easier than I expected. I'm going to do this again. And it's like, yes. Because we do. We need to build those consistent donors. And so I'm so grateful when we do see new donors in there and it's their first time and they realize they just gave blood that could save up to 3 lives.
I will have to corner him, and maybe we'll do a show before the end of the year where we're recording while we're giving blood. How about that? We'll
Oh,
include you and we'll do a whole show, and people can come and watch us give blood while we talk on the radio.
that would be awesome.
let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about this winter storm, what might happen in the spring, in the summer. And we talked a little bit last month about being prepared. This storm, from a winter perspective, also taught us a few prevention lessons, things that we could have done to eliminate some issues that we may have had. So, can we get in the weeds on all of that in the next segment?
Yes, absolutely.
We are on the Zooms today with Deb Fleming. She's the executive director of the Greater Shenandoah Valley chapter of the American Red Cross. We're going to talk a little bit more about being prepared for a disaster. And a disaster doesn't have to be some massive earthquake, it could be 6.5 inches of snow with 2.5 inches of ice on top of it. So that's what we're going to talk about when we come back in just a couple of minutes. Just going to take a quick second during the break for a public service announcement. Winchester Little Theater, a place very near and dear to my heart, has discovered that ticket resellers are listing their shows online and jacking up the prices. But here's the truth: they only sell tickets through their official website, winchesterlittletheater.org, for $25 with discounts for students and seniors. But some of these websites are charging 45, 65, even hundreds of dollars. And while ticket reselling is legal, it hurts patrons and small nonprofit theaters like Winchester Little Theater. So before you buy, please check their website, winchesterlittletheater.org. That's theater, theatre.org. And thank you for supporting local theater. Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is all about being prepared today. Deb Fleming is on the Zooms with me. She is the executive director for the Greater Shenandoah Valley chapter of American Red Cross. We talked in the first segment about the massive blood shortage that's happening right now. So I encourage you, go online, find a blood drive, go give blood, send me your picture. Maybe I'll share it out on the Valley Today Facebook page and make you a little Facebook famous for a couple of minutes. But Deb, when we went to break, I was talking about how our whole series this year is going to be about being prepared for a disaster. And I feel like so many times people hear that word disaster and they think, oh, this volcano exploded, or oh, there's an earthquake, or there's a tsunami coming. And we don't think about disasters on the level of this winter storm that we just had. It was disastrous to a lot of people in our area.
Yeah, absolutely. So, something about a winter storm, fires increase because people are using alternative ways of heating their home. That's the small disasters within a big disaster. And that's not small for the people who are going through it. I just want to make sure that's clear too. That is a huge life-changing event for the people who are going through that. But then when you get to the larger state of entire communities are shut down because they can't go anywhere. Schools, there are places that kids haven't been in school in a week. It's just too cold. And traveling to get to places is difficult. Each community that you live in has a particular type of emergency that's typical. In this area, flooding and winter storms are typical. This winter storm is atypical for what we've dealt with. But now we know we need to really get ready for something like this again, because it's probably going to happen again.
It was interesting to me when we were knee deep in the middle of it, no pun intended, given how much snow we actually got. But our last conversation, we talked about how far out to be prepared for an emergency. And the standard, I say using air quotes, is 3 days. But you encouraged people to be prepared and ready to manage for 2 weeks. And day 2 of the storm, I'm thinking I should have listened to Deb and gotten 2 weeks worth of Oreos instead of 3 days worth of Oreos. But it's a good reminder that sometimes we see something coming and we're like, yeah, but it's not going to be that bad. I'm going to be out of here in a day or two. And we just don't realize until it's too late. So having that 2 week stash of water, of batteries, of all the things is really smart to be thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, because we do expect things to function. There's always that joke that whenever you're going to have any bit of storm, people are going to go get their toilet paper, their eggs, and their milk, and it's going to be all gone, right? Well, this is one of those storms where you probably needed that toilet paper, eggs, and milk for a longer period of time than you had anticipated, even more than I had anticipated. I say to be ready, but I'm not always ready like I know I should be too. It's hard because we never think it's going to happen to us. But we're seeing this more often that storms are bigger, they last longer, and they do more damage. And we really have to reset our mind into thinking we need to be able to be prepared for 2 weeks at a time. I'm so glad that you were thinking of that while you were going through this, because I know the next time you're going to go, okay, I thought about it in the past. I'm going to do something about it this time.
And so, two things about that. First, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second and talk to anyone who's listening today that thought it was a good idea to race to the grocery store and buy 14 gallons of milk for their family of four. No family of four is consuming 14 gallons of milk in 2 weeks. We all also, as a community and as a society, need to understand and recognize that other people need to have that milk or that toilet paper or that bread, whatever it is. And running out to the store to buy everything that they have is not considered being a good neighbor. Get what you need and leave some for other people. So, rant over. I just had to say that because I saw way too many pictures on Facebook of people in checkout lines at grocery stores with people behind them that had 14 loaves of bread and 15 gallons of milk and all of this stuff that seemed excessive at the time. The other thing that I'll say is our conversation last month, we were talking about pets, and I hadn't considered adding things for the dogs to my emergency kit. Again, here comes the storm. Tim and I went to the store on Monday before the week before the storm hit. So we were good to go. And then on Thursday, it hit me. Oh, wait, do I have 2 weeks worth of dog food? Do I have what I need for the dogs? So I, on Saturday before the storm rolled in on Sunday, I found myself at Petco and at PetSmart because, of course, one store can't possibly carry all of the things that I need. But I got my 2 weeks worth of dog food and they were set. So there was no concern about the dogs during the storm.
Well, here's the thing. When people go in and buy all that at the last minute, it's because they haven't prepared. And so now they're scared. If we prepare ahead of time, if we start to prevent this type of stuff, we don't have to be afraid right before it shows up. So that's something that we really need to kind of think like, can we take an extra $10, $20 and just start to stock up a little bit at a time? Get prepared ahead of time so that in the last moment, you're like, okay, I'm one person. I live by myself. I have 24 things of toilet paper so that I can leave that toilet paper for other people who haven't thought about that the time. It's always in my house. When that starts to get going to half, I go out and I get some more toilet paper. And do I need 24 rolls of toilet paper? I would hope not. I would be very sick if I did all that. But if somebody else ran out of it, I have some for them. Being a good neighbor and taking care of yourself ahead of time so that you can be that good neighbor. I saw so many wonderful things happen in this storm with people shoveling other people out. We have great neighborhoods. We have great people in our community. Just think ahead a little bit and make it a lot easier. I went to visit my sister and I had forgotten my car charging kit that I always carry with me. She looked at me, she goes, "What is wrong with you?" You go out and
This
teach
is
people
your
this stuff.
job.
I said, "Well, I left in a hurry." She went in. She goes, "What else did you forget?" I said, "I had taken everything out of my car and I forgot to put it back in." And so she came out with bottles of water, snacks, blanket, the whole deal that I should have had in my car. So we all make mistakes. We all can forget things, but the more we do it, the more we'll remember. And believe me, that stuff is in my car now and it is not going anywhere. But having your cell phones, chargers, and backup chargers, and your batteries, and your flashlights, and all those little things that you don't think you're going to need, but oh man, when you do, you're going to be so glad you had them.
You make a really good point when you talk about your car. There are a lot of people that still have to work even when the snow is coming down. VDOT would love for everybody to stay off the roads. Ken Slack and I had that conversation. It's not always feasible. And I don't know that I have everything in my car. So even if I were just going to make a quick run to the store or go meet somebody to record, and there's an accident in front of me and now I'm sitting here and I only have a half a tank or a quarter of a tank of gas, so I should probably turn my car off and conserve it. I don't have a blanket in my car. I don't have half of the things in my car that I probably should. That's another place that we could be more prepared, and I'll bet a lot of us are falling down.
Yeah, and the one thing you don't want to do is keep your car running when there's deep snow, because what can happen is that exhaust can come back into your car and give you carbon monoxide poisoning. So you want to have your blankets. If you have a small candle, crack your window just a little bit so that you don't get the carbon monoxide from the candle, but it can keep your car warm enough to keep you from freezing with a blanket. In these winter weathers, storms, there's so much that we don't think about. Having your hats, mittens, blankets, a flashlight, a charger, having your cell phone with you, first aid kit, some boots, a shovel. There's little things that when I was driving, after I thought the roads were cleared enough, I went on a side road, which I shouldn't have done. And I went to turn around, but I was pulled into a snowdrift, right? So right then and there, I'm like, "Oh, you know better, Deb." And so I will not be going on side roads, even if I think it should be cleared. We all learn along the way. None of us are perfect, but the more we do, the better it will be.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording too about sometimes you can do things that aren't necessarily being prepared in the sense that having food and water and having those things. But I was telling you how we here in Winchester and I think in some other parts of the Shenandoah Valley that have Rappahannock Electric and Shenandoah Valley Electric got an alert that there was the possibility for power outages, not because the ice was getting to the lines, but because there was such a high demand on the power grid, it made me realize, well, wait, if they have to shut down the power for a bit, we're going to have no heat. So, what can I do to maybe decrease the load a little bit? So, I spent some time walking around the house. First, I had no idea how much crap I had plugged in this house that didn't need to be plugged in. If I'm not using the microwave, why is the microwave plugged in? I have power strips everywhere because we have a very old house. So we don't have a lot of outlets. So we have power strips plugged in nearly every single outlet. It's like a Christmas story going on in this house some days. But being able to be cognizant of that and go around and unplug and turn some things off, sometimes you can prevent the disaster from happening instead of having to even be prepared for it.
That's right. And one of the things that I'm doing today is at night, I turn my heat down so that it is reducing the amount. I'm in blankets. I don't need a warm room on top of the blankets. Just put some more blankets on. But then during the day, I wear 2 layers of clothes and I turn my heat down in times like this just to try to help the power grid a little bit. That's something that I choose to do. I think if we all choose to do something, it would help out during times like this when it is strained. And Red Cross has shelters open throughout our region still, not because people can't get back to their homes, but because this is a very cold time. The power grid is up still, but some people don't have heat in their homes. They're needing a warm place to go during the day. And that's something that is a little bit unusual. We usually don't see this type of sheltering need. But again, the needs are getting greater. And so you really do have to prepare more than you ever had to before.
Well, you're going to see people that do have access, that did have heat. It's going to be running constantly because it's cold outside. So it's going to have to run longer to maintain a temperature. And you're going to feel that hit next month when the bill comes rolling in. So if you could do things now, and that's what I kept telling myself as I'm going around unplugging like curling irons and things like that that are plugged in, I'm thinking, I'm going to look at my electric bill and see if this went down at all, because this is crazy that I've been doing this all along. I could have been saving some money or not putting myself in such a precarious position when the bill rolls around next month from running the heat so often.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always types of ways that we can save and we can get sloppy. My mother, when I was growing up, my mother never liked to heat the formal living room. I don't know how many of you had that. It was so expensive to heat the living room. So she would always put a sheet up and we weren't allowed to play in there because it would bring the cold air in. But she didn't heat rooms that weren't necessary to heat. She would turn the heat down in certain areas that brought drafts in.
I'm going to have a conversation next week, actually, with Les Sinclair from the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is heat or eat, because a lot of people will give up food and not buy food to make sure they can cover the bill of heating their house. And some of these tips could be really beneficial for them, at least in a short term.
Yes, yes. And whenever I lose heat in my house, I do what my mother taught me is where are the coldest rooms in the house, keep those separated, and then try to bring as much in. Your kitchen table can be a fun fort for the kids. You put some blankets over top and it's warmer in there. Their little bodies will keep that warmer. You put a tent up in the middle of your living room so that you can sleep and it keeps the heat in. There's little things like that you can do if you do lose your heat. And of course, with the cold weather like this, it would be hard to be in the home for a long period of time. but just little things that maybe you can have fun in a time where the grid isn't being so taxed, that you can make it something enjoyable for the family. And so that's the real point too, is you want to make sure that it doesn't feel like a burden for your children, that it becomes something fun, because then they'll want to do it again and it makes it a little bit easier on you.
Well, and you don't want to scare them. You want them to understand the value of what it is that you're doing, because then as they go forth into adulthood, they take those lessons with them and become more efficient people, quite frankly.
Absolutely. And that's going to help us in so many ways in the long run, for sure.
So when we get back together next month for the March show, spring will be upon us. So let's make a plan to talk a little bit about, we've been talking a lot today about the winter storm because it's all around us. In March, can we talk a little bit about flooding and things that we need to be prepared for in case that happens? Can we plan to do that in March?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for taking the time to talk about snow and ice with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, a few minutes after noon, so meet me here then.